This is Dabu7, a heads-up alert for folks in Washington that live near Hanford. We have yet again another situation on the heels of the tunnel collapse that took place up there. We have a leak. Now, they're beating around the bush, but they're admitting there is contamination coming out of this thing. There's no other way to cut it. When you send a robot like the one you see here up into this tank area, and this is AZ-101, they send it up into this region. This is a routine procedure where the guys that do this send it in, it comes back, there's no contamination readings, everything's fine, they push on. This time, we have a leak. They're saying, oh, we never spotted anything on the camera. No solid concrete proof, but they also didn't scour the whole shell. What they did is they went up into some of these areas with the robot, and when they brought it back out, it was highly contaminated. With 3 times the limit, it was 3 times higher than they were expecting. Now, this AZ-101 tank was put into service in 1976. It was expected to be used 20 years. It has now been sitting there for 41 years with hot, boiling, radioactive, contaminated waste. And they're wanting to tell the public, oh, everything's fine. But it is holding 800,000 gallons of this waste. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if your robot comes back contaminated, you have a leak. Period. So for people that need to be spoon-fed by the mainstream media, waiting till they come out and they admit it, you may never get that. Okay? You have to understand, in situations like this, they go out of their way to cover things up. I even had a worker from Hanford, 17 years working there, reach out to me and tell me they were watching my videos. They were very aware of it, of the videos I was putting out on Hanford, and told me that they threatened people in the past. A lady that brought this up in regards to the first tank that started leaking. They were going through her trash, all these other things. And I think the safest place for me to put this is right here out in the open. Anything ever happens to Dabu7, it was your federales. Don't you forget that. Anyhow, with these tanks, there's another one leaking. Okay, the first one that's been leaking since, for some time now. I don't know exactly when it sprung its leak, but they waited a year to send the robot up in there. This time they jumped on it rather quickly. This is a huge situation. We have 2 massive tanks at this facility, both leaking now. They could sit there and say, oh, well, we don't know for sure at this point, but come on. The robot comes back covered in contamination. The writing should be on the wall for you. If you want to be dumb enough to think something else, where did it come from? It has to come out of a hole or a crack somewhere. So it's rather obvious. Problem is they haven't pinpointed it, and they don't want to admit all this. It's going to make them look even stupider. This has been sitting here for 41 years, twice as long as it was supposed to be. I'm going to ask the question, what was the plan to remove this? Or are you going to tell me that the plan was to put all this stuff in 2 20-year tanks and say, oh, we'll deal with it later? Because it seems like with the stuff stored in the tunnel, that's what they said. We're just going to put it in here. They did that in the 60s. We're going to cover it up, and hopefully nothing ever happens. Well, we're finding out all too well that things can happen. A collapse happened at the tunnel. We have a leak at the first tank, and now in the second massive tank, we have a leak as well. So I wanted to get this out there, just give everyone the heads up, let them know this is a serious situation here. If this does get into the ground, it will hit the groundwater, and they can go into the Columbia River. And you're going to be hard-pressed to get any details out of local sources or anything. We've seen this the whole time. And they came through and hit my last video, exposing them, admitting on radio about high contamination levels escaping from the tunnel. They hit it with a copyright strike. So it's gone. And they did that for a reason. That one video for a reason. Because it exposed Right there, the workers saying back and forth on their hand radios that there was a high radiation release. So, that is the truth of everything going down right now at this facility. Recent tunnel collapse, and you have 2 tanks that have leaks. And I'd like to know, what is the plan to fix it? And what are they going to do? People should be pressing them big time for the answers to those questions. But I will leave a link, and I will continue to update with more as I come across it, as I always do. It's been Dabu7.